Attention, people of Earth. Please remain calm. We understand that the giant mecha minotaur rampaging through various populated areas is an inconvenience, and we assure you that we are doing everything we can to reintegrate our brains into our original organic bodies so that we may more effectively put an end to that issue. Welcome to Vaguely Scientific. In the meantime, we've sent a squadron of Minotaur Unit Rapid Destruction Regiment robots to at least keep it occupied. I'm sure nothing will go wrong. That's an acronym for murder, if anyone pays attention. I don't know. I am Derek.
How about that?
Jim is considering remaining in his plastic body, or at least keeping it in the garage so he can take it out on joyrides on the weekends. Hello, Jim.
Hi, it doesn't have any pain receptors, so,
Oh, that's actually a good point. I didn't think of that. And David assures me that all the bugs in the robots have finally been sorted, and even though he isn't an expert on robotics, I'm choosing to take his word for it because it's more convenient for me in the short term. Welcome back, David.
I push back on not an expert on robotics.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm very knowledgeable about robotics. And also, I said most of the bugs in robots, not all of them.
Not all of them, that's true. You did say most.
Yeah, I've covered my bases. If I'm wrong, I'm still right.
Perfect.
Well, that should be the slogan of this show, which is the show where listeners send in questions to hear our vaguely scientific answers. And who knows, we might get some of them right, even if we get them wrong. Yeah, but first, Jim, do you have a science fact of the day that is possibly fun?
I do. It's all about sharks. And it's also about the age of the universe, which is pretty fun. So the earliest confirmed modern sharks are from about 200 million years ago. And based on this numbers, that means that sharks have been around for a little more than 1% of the age of the entire universe. Now, that percentage can go way up if you count some of the older shark relatives that sort of sprang up pretty early on in Earth's history. That can go up to around 3 to 4% of the entire history of the universe. So sharks have been around for a bit.
Yeah, but baby shark hasn't been around as long as grandma shark.
No, that is true. Yeah.
1% of the age of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That doesn't sound like a lot, but I guess it is several million years.
Yeah, about 200 million to be exact.
Yeah.
I just think it's neat that sharks are real old.
Yeah, but it's rude to say that to them.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't say that to a shark's face. It would eat me.
I mean, can you say it about one shark that isn't around to another shark?
Oh, maybe. Shark gossip.
Shark. Well, we should forget this entire thing entirely. So I think we should probably talk about our first question this week. Could you mind wipe someone? Could you erase their recent memory, like in MIB? Could you erase specific objects or people, like in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind?
I had heard of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and I had never really looked into what it was, and I read the plot summary, and also Jim Carrey was in it, and I was like, wow, amazing.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see this movie now.
So I saw this movie a long time ago when I think I was old enough that, to me, Jim Carrey was goofy and silly, and I didn't want to see him in dramatic roles. Because I was 12 or something. But I remember not being the biggest fan of that movie, but admittedly, I don't remember it very well at all. I do remember that the premise, you may have a more fresh memory than me about it because you looked it up recently, but I remember that it's about a guy that breaks up with a girl and he has her erased from his memory, like the existence of her. And that is a very fascinating idea.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I found most interesting, because I looked into whether or not it was possible to erase memories, and it sounds like the technology is starting to become something that is feasible. Now, I'm not saying that we can do it now, but they have run some trials in mice. They've been doing experiments with brain cells, and they've been trying to figure out kind of how memories are stored in the brain. And the main use for this, which I thought was a brilliant idea, was to use it for victims of PTSD, because basically they figure that if they can sort of target the areas where those traumatic memories are being stored, or even just if they can sort of reduce the response to those memories by targeting specific cells, then that might actually be a really effective way of treating PTSD that would sort of prevent a lot of the issues that we have now, which is primarily just trying to figure out sort of what the triggers are and what causes it and what brings it to the forefront. Now, again, we're not there yet, but it is something that's feasible. And I think that's incredible that we already have like sort of a use for it. It's not just like, oh, we're going to erase your memory for funsies. It's like there's a legitimate medical use for this.
I think that's interesting because, and I'm not a medical person. I don't know that much about psychology, and I don't know anything about brain surgery. But I find the idea of erasing traumatic moments in your life kind of an interesting philosophical thing to explore, because our experiences in childhood basically determine what we are like to a not 100%, but to a great extent. A lot of times people are conditioned to act a certain way because of how they were treated, or they may have a bad association with a certain kind of food because it made them sick one time, or something like that, or more serious examples that I didn't feel like going into. But that's interesting to me, that if you could erase a formative event from your childhood, would it change fundamentally a significant portion of your personality? Considering like there are things that people go to therapy and have revelations about themselves, that like the reason I act this way is because of my experiences with this, that they don't even actually remember fully. Already.
Yeah.
So I find that an interesting. Did that make sense? Did I articulate that well at all?
Oh yeah, no, that makes perfect sense to me. And I think it's a great question, because to me, I would almost think like that wouldn't necessarily matter, because what I would think is that when your personality is what it is, but there is like a formative event that happened in the past, it would be sort of like the same thing as if you just sort of naturally forgot that happened. And I think it probably wouldn't change your current personality, but going forward, it may be something that doesn't necessarily affect how you act in the future, because you're no longer drawing on that specific instance. But yeah, I mean, it made perfect sense to me. Like, yeah, you explained it well.
But if people are forgetting them anyway, and they're still being affected, and they're still doing like, I feel like a lot of like, at least current practices with like psychiatry and therapy, like is like they explore memories and try to find the triggers. So couldn't erasing traumatic memories do more harm than good?
Oh, interesting.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good point.
If medicine is focused on retrieving memories and dealing with them, that's going in the opposite direction. I'm not saying current medical practices or views on that are absolute or correct or whatever, but like that seems to be what people do nowadays. So it like this treatment for it seems like it would just be the opposite, right? So
yeah,
it seems like one would have to be better than the other.
Now that makes me think of, this is not what you are saying, but that what it made me think of was something else that I looked into, which is the idea of implanting new memories, which is because the question mentioned Men in Black, and whenever they use the neuralizer to erase recent memories, they always tell people this is the thing that happened. This is the new thing that we want you to believe. And the suggestion is that whatever they tell them, they've just created a replacement memory. And so I looked a little bit into that, and long story short, I don't understand this very well at all, but there were lab studies showing that researchers had experimented on mice, and they were able to use electric shocks to associate their perception of a place, and they would cause the mouse to remember being shocked somewhere that it wasn't shocked.
Oh, interesting.
I don't really know how this worked. I would have to read about it more thoroughly to kind of explain it better, because I don't get it, but I find it interesting that they seem pretty confident that they're able to have false associative memory. And that goes into human beings with things like hypnosis and guided suggestion and meditation. There are a lot of stories of people kind of telling a story or an anecdote over and over again that wasn't true, but the more times they tell the story, the more they just start to actually remember it actually happening. Obviously, that's just people eventually convincing themselves of a lie, but like, do you actually remember that now?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, that's one of the things that I know is very fascinating about memory and eyewitness testimonies, and just how malleable memory can be in the first place. And there could be three people that witness the same thing and remember it three different ways. And I think that's really interesting. Oh, what's the name of that Japanese movie that's like the three different perspectives on the same story? Rashomon? Something like that.
I never saw it.
I've never seen it, but I know that it inspired a lot of things that have come since. But
it seems like there is already ways to chemically do that. Like, obviously you can alter perception and experience through like chemicals and drugs and stuff. But like, even something as simple as getting blackout drunk and imbibing alcohol, like that's literally, you don't remember.
Yeah.
That is memory erasure. Because like blackout drunk people are aware of what's happening, more or less. They're drunk, but but they don't remember later, and that their memory is erased essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that gets to just the general idea of sleeping, and this is existentially terrifying for me, but I'm going to bring it up anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It comes back to, I believe that it is pronounced Henri Bergson, but it might be Henry. It's spelled with an I, so I'm not positive, but he was a philosopher who in 1896 wrote a lot about the idea of memory, associating it, saying that consciousness is grounded in memory. To oversimplify the philosophy involved, the idea that your life is a series of things that you remember, so that's what your perception has to be contextualized by memory.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of things like losing time because you got blackout drunk, or sleeping and then waking up in the morning and feeling like time just stopped for a moment and you just jumped to being conscious again.
Mm-hmm.
Your time sleeping is completely contextualized by your new consciousness once you wake up again.
Mm-hmm.
I find that idea of like, this is basically describing death, right? Going to sleep and never waking up again. I find that existentially terrifying, because you only remember sleeping after you've woken up again.
Well, that's kind of, because sleeping, there's a continuation of consciousness, because you're dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, like a lot of people don't remember their dreams. They say, like some people say, I've heard disagreement on whether or not you can sleep without dreaming, or you just don't remember the dreams or whatever. But like, that's an example of losing the memory of the dreams. General anesthesia, is like a time skip, essentially, from the perspective of the person going under.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, consciousness, or at least experience what you're experiencing, it's suspended, and you don't experience the passage of time either, because that is also something that you have to experience to be, you're aware of the passage of time.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like with philosophers, you run into the problem of like consciousness is kind of ill-defined because it isn't understood. True. You could say something like consciousness is couched in memories, but then that kind of runs into the circular issue of like, okay, but then who's experiencing the memories, right? It's an interesting thought. And then like we do have this idea of continuity. Mm-hmm. I played an interesting video game that explored that continuity thing, which was it's this horror game called Soma.
I've heard of that.
I've heard of it. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. It's like a survival horror game. But anyway, the premise is you're playing in, and this is lightly spoilery what I'm saying. I'm going to spoil the game a little bit. You're playing as this person who goes in and gets this brain scan because your character is like basically dying from a brain injury or brain bleed, something wrong with his brain. So he's getting this scanned, and they're scanning it for medical reasons and like for research, right? And you go in, and it's like an appointment where you're going to go get your brain scanned, and then you sit in the chair, and then you blink, and then like all of a sudden you're in this dystopian future, and it's like this machine has teleported you to the future, and you're trying to like, there's killer robots, and like you're underwater, and it's like this horrible, and it isn't until a little later that you find out that you are not the same person. You're a robot that woke up with your memories. And of course, this is obviously running with the idea of like, it's exploring like, what if you could upload your consciousness to something? They're really exploring that, which is, of course, in the realm of science fiction, because like we just don't understand what consciousness is well enough to even say whether that could be possible, because it relies on like that we don't have a yes or no answer on that, because it's like we don't know what it is. It's like, but like this is a game that kind of explores like, what if it's this? What if it is an uploadable thing? And there could just be a robot with sentience that it thinks it's you, right? Mm-hmm. So like from the perspective of the person who switched, who was uploaded, they call it in the game a cosmic coin flip. And so like it's cosmic coin flip, whether you are, it's like the Prestige. It's like either you're going to be the original person and you don't get uploaded. You're just still you. And then there's now a clone of you that thinks it's you. Or in that moment, you'll win the cosmic coin toss and you'll be in a new body, and you'll simultaneously be the one, in the narrative who is surviving. But, so that's why you win the coin toss. But also you're not the original person. You're a person that was created just in that moment. And you have all these false memories. And it's meant to be an existential horror game. But that is what kind of the talk about memory, consciousness being couched in memory reminds me of.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about several times on this show, sporadically throughout our 8 years. We've talked about cloning yourself and putting the memories, that's a new person. And we've talked about The Sixth Day, Arnold Schwarzenegger, where he finds out he's a clone, but he has all of the memories of being his entire life. And it's a surprise that he's a clone, right? And I know we've talked about uploading your consciousness to a computer and how I feel like that's just making a digital clone of yourself. That is not keeping you alive, like from your point of view.
Yeah. I don't know why that made me think of Total Recall, which...
Yeah, well, that's in the same kind of vein.
Yeah, because the whole impetus of that movie is that you have Arnold Schwarzenegger going in and
it's because of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It is, yeah. I mean, that's exactly why I thought of it, but he's going in and he's supposed to have a vacation uploaded into his brain, and instead it unlocks sort of this sleeper agent inside of him, I suppose, but not even a full unlock. It's sort of just parts of it spill out of him, and he sort of has to piece together what's going on. But it's very much the same, where it's, apparently he had a part of him sealed away, and then he became a different person. And even after that was unlocked, he sort of still stayed the same person that he always had, or that he had been since that event. Because he ends up, if I remember correctly, I think that his original personality was sort of on the side of the bad guys, and he does not end up re-siding with the bad guys.
Well, that's kind of interesting because that's exactly what we have been talking about here and there already, is he replaces all of his memories.
Yeah.
So when he goes and does this vacation, it reminds him too much of the memories he erased.
Mm-hmm.
And so it causes like a dissonance in his brain. And I know the twist in that movie, spoilers for the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. It is a good movie, honestly. So go watch it, but then come back and here's the spoilers. You've been warned. The twist is he was the bad guy, like the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he erased his memories, and like he ends up subverting his own evil plot. Because he's now, and I think that's kind of interesting because he does kind of unlock his old memories, but he kind of remembers both lives.
Yeah.
But one of them just feels more real, and perhaps it's because it's more recent, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm. But I thought that whole thing was very interesting because and really, I don't know that they necessarily go into detail how they're able to change people's memories around like that, but it is something that I suppose is, in the future they are able to do with a little bit more ease than we could consider doing it right now. General Hospital.
Go ahead.
There was a plot where, so this is behind the curtain General Hospital stuff, where there was a character named Jason who the actor wanted to quit or retire or whatever, and he left the show, and so they recast him, and they had to sort of jump through hoops to make it so like, why doesn't anyone recognize him? Because he's got a different face. And it was like, he got in a car accident and had to have facial reconstruction surgery, blah, blah, blah. And so he settles in and then eventually becomes the new Jason. And then the old Jason wanted to come back. The old actor wanted to come back. And so then they had to jump through hoops. Okay, so this was actually his twin brother that had a memory graft put into his head. And he thought he was Jason, but he's actually not. And
oh no, he's Cloud Strife.
Yeah, kind of, actually. But it was interesting. Like, the whole story made me very angry because, I don't know, it was so many hoops to jump through just to, justify keeping both actors, where I feel like they could have come up with a better solution. But it was interesting because they, had all these different plot lines involved in trying to track down like the original copy of his memories, and it was on a flash drive. And I'm like, I don't think memories would fit on a flash drive, at least on a current flash drive. So, but that was another thing where they didn't really explain how they did it. They just did it.
Right. Well, yeah. And that's in the soft sci-fi area where it's like, assuming this technology exists, we're not going to go into it. So MIB does the thing where they have this little device, and they have this idea that this flash of light sends signals into your neural network and rewrites your brain. And I feel like that's as much of an explanation as I've seen in any other fiction.
So it doesn't rewrite their brain though in the movie, really. Like, it just erases the memory. And then if you notice, all the MIB agents always describe new memories to the people they just ionized. I think what's it, ionizer?
Neuralize.
Neuralizer.
Oh, neuralize. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, right. Yeah, ionized is a real thing, probably. But and not remotely the same. So the people they just neuralize, they always do. So I always interpreted that as it's like this sci-fi hypnosis, essentially, because they're just completely susceptible to suggestion, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because like, it's not the machine, it does its little flash dealy, and then it's done. It's not recording memories anymore at that point. The machine, they've put it back in their pocket, and now they're just using their words to describe things. So I think the assumption is, with what's going on in MIB, is the victim, and I'm going to call them a victim because they're definitely, the victim's brain is filling in the blanks, which we know that is, I believe that's how memory often works. It will the brain will fill in blanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. The idea of implanting memories through suggestion, like that is very feasible. That's also existentially terrifying. Why do we keep doing this on this show?
Well, I think I would kind of push back on Rui and say that consciousness and memory is two different conversations, because I think you're making a lot of assumptions to say that
true
consciousness and memory, like, I think consciousness is another discussion entirely. So are they related? Certainly. I wouldn't say they aren't, but like,
yeah,
I definitely say it's a potential that they are more related or less related. But I think the discussion on memory needs to be its own thing.
There is a thought experiment that I want to bring up in this conversation that I don't know if I want to open another whole can of worms, but I've been thinking about it, and it reminds me of this question as well, because it's dealing with erasing memory. And that is the question, if I am currently at this moment planning to erase my memory, will I ever erase my memory? Oh. My thinking there is, from my perspective, if I'm currently conscious of planning to erase my memory, that means I currently remember that. And I don't know if that's paradoxical or not.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that is still kind of muddying memory with consciousness.
I don't think it's I think that's totally possible. You could make the decision right now to go get blackout drunk and you wouldn't remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Like, you can literally do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've, speaking from experience, I've forgotten plenty of plans that I've made and even put a lot of thought into. And I've been reminded, like, we've literally had the conversation, like, you'll quote something that I think is really funny, and I'll say, like, that's really funny. Who said that? And you'll say, you said that. I have no memory of it at all. Yeah. But I clearly put thought into it. I said it.
Usually it'll be this soundbite that pops into my head. Oh, I'm funny.
The last thing I wanted to bring up was another movie that is sci-fi. I don't think most people really liked it, but I thought it was pretty decent. It's a film called Paycheck. Then this movie came out in the early 2000s, I remember. So the whole sort of premise of the movie is that there's this guy who gets his memory frequently erased because he works in some kind of tech industry. And basically at the end of a project, they will erase his memory of the project so they can protect their intellectual property and stuff like he's totally cool with it. It's like part of the job. And then he gets paid very handsomely. And the movie is like after his last job, he gets his memory erased, but they don't do a good job of it. And he apparently creates this device that can see into the future, and it causes a nuclear war. But anyway, the way they did it, I thought was really, really interesting, where they would inject a dye into their brain, and then when new neurons form, like new connections would form, it would dye those specific connections so they could sort of laser target those particular neurons that would just erase the new memories that had formed since he had been part of the project. And I think that's a really clever idea. And it's not super far off from the things that they have been doing with the mice trials, where what they've been doing is they've been using specifically engineered viruses. Now, these viruses are deliberately designed that they cannot reproduce. So it's not going to be like something like, you have to worry about this virus then reproducing and erasing your whole brain. No, it's like they are targeted, like one-time use viruses that then go in and destroy specific cells. And it's a really interesting idea because they can use that to target areas that, so in mice specifically, and this is actually sort of ties back into the PTSD research, but in mice specifically, they actually used it to look for areas where the mice have been artificially induced to have a fear response to something. And so they look at that area of the brain, they see the fear response, and then they kind of erase that fear response. And it seems to work on the mice. And then the cool thing is that they do it in such a way that it doesn't erase their ability to feel fear. And new memories can then be made where it's like, okay, they're afraid of this thing again. But it erases their current fear of that, or sort of their current memory that they should be afraid of it, whatever the object is. But I thought it was really interesting. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Paycheck, where they specifically target regions of the brain.
Yeah.
Paycheck's a fine movie. It's like
Okay, I don't think I've heard of it honestly, so I'll have to.
it
look
had
up.
some like big names in it. I think it was based on a Philip K. Dick novel. Ben Affleck, Aaron Eckhart, Uma Thurman was in it. That's right. So it was like a big-ish movie, but it's like a summer blockbuster kind of thing, and it's fine. Like,
Okay.
it's not going to win an Oscar. It surely did not win an Oscar, but I enjoyed watching it.
All right. Well, I'm sure there's more we could say about this, but I don't remember what else I was going to say about it. Ha ha ha. I'm sorry, everyone. But speaking of things in your head, we do have a second question, which is not related to this question at all, but I tried to tie them together there. Yay. Question 2 this week is, why do Saiyans get more hair when they get more powerful? Is hair tied to power? Saiyans, of course, being the alien race from Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball Z, I believe, is when the term Saiyan was actually introduced.
Yeah. And they're also in Dragon Ball Super.
Yeah, I mean, they're in every Dragon Ball since Dragon Ball Z, but
And also Dragon Ball GT.
and Dragon Ball,
yes.
and
I think Dragon Ball Daima as well.
I gotta go.
Also Naruto.
They're not in Naruto. I
How do
don't
we
think.
know?
I never watched Naruto.
I've never seen Naruto. I can't confirm or deny.
There could have been a crossover. for all I know.
I'm telling you guys, they're in there.
Okay.
Because I don't think you're going to check.
Mm.
I'm not.
No, that's correct.
I'm not going to check. You are. Yep.
Yeah. You just
The
have to
listeners
trust me.
might let us know, but I don't know. I do want to.
No, don't tell them. Don't tell them, listeners.
Don't tell me. You can tell Jim. Don't tell me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to bring this up because we're talking about Saiyans, and the last time we talked to David specifically about Goku on this show, anyway, was in episode 98, which was titled "Superheroes Are Super Downers." And we talked about Goku because we were exploring the idea of, is Goku a superhero?
Oh, okay.
And that wasn't the question, but it came up, and then we were talking about the origin of Goku being inspired by Sun Wukong, the Monkey King. And a question was asked, I believe, by Jim, is Sun Wukong a superhero? And we had differing opinions that were all entirely subjective, I think. Like, I don't think any of us had a hard stance. But I just kind of wanted to mention this because since that episode came out, within the past couple of years, DC Comics has released a new character in their universe called the Monkey Prince, who is in universe the son of Sun Wukong, and Pigsy is in it, and it turns out he was adopted by some human parents and doesn't know anything about his mystical origins, and it was just really kind of neat to me, who is an uber nerd and likes both Journey to the West and DC Comics, that they decided in the DC Comics universe, the mythology from Journey to the West was canonical. And the Monkey Prince is, I guess, now a member of one of the youth leagues, like either the Teen Titans or something. I only read the first 2 volumes of that run, but it was all right, and it was really cool to see all the allusions to Monkey King.
So that means the Monkey King's kid is a superhero, but still it's unconfirmed whether the Monkey King is a superhero.
As far as I've read, I know that the series went on longer than I stopped reading it, because I think it might still be running. It's a fairly new IP.
The only thing we say for sure is the Monkey King is handsome.
And equal to heaven, right?
Yeah.
That is
Great sage, equal to heaven. Yeah.
Great sage, equal to heaven, the handsome Monkey King, Sun Wukong.
Right, yeah. We read Journey to the West.
You gotta get the whole title in there.
Yeah.
How many people are we alienating now? I don't know.
I mean, I encourage people to go out and read Journey to the West because it's a fun read.
Yeah.
People are already fans of many aspects of Journey to the West because it has integrated into popular culture and started tropes.
Yeah.
Like,
Goku.
like Goku, and also the Pilgrim's Journey is a thing. Wizard of Oz. Is literally Wizard of Oz. The book is intentionally takes inspiration from Journey to the West.
Yeah,
I think
like as soon as you said that, I'm like, yeah.
The flying monkeys were controlled by the Wicked Witch with crowns, with like headbands, like Sun Wukong.
Dorothy meets a series of traveling companions.
Yeah, Dorothy is the traveling monk. And she has 3 companions, just like the monk from Journey to the West. That was intentional.
Wow.
And each one of those companions has a personality flaw.
I like that. So this is a tenuous connection, but I did want to tie this back into the question. Is hair tied to power?
So as someone with long hair, I can answer this question. Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
I have long hair. I am very powerful.
Yeah.
Well, we brought on an actual expert to answer this question. You're welcome, listeners.
I'm sorry for this short episode. But like that is true.
I think it's important to note that the first Saiyan that we meet that isn't Goku is his brother Raditz. And that guy had some serious hair. And you know what? He trash canned Goku and Piccolo at the same time.
And Goku
died.
Piccolo didn't have any hair.
No. But Goku died. Like, his brother killed him.
If we ignore all of the Dragon Ball series and we just start there, then Piccolo was real weak right at the beginning because he didn't have any hair.
Actually, if we want to get real, because we're going to get emails about that, Raditz did not kill Goku. Piccolo technically killed Goku.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for Raditz, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I like Piccolo.
Goku told Piccolo to kill him. Let's be clear on that.
Yes.
To kill Raditz. Hashtag Piccolo did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Let me get back on my track so that I can get it done with, and we can get back onto your track, which is actually closer to the original track. I do want to say that one of the Handsome Monkey King's powers, canonically, is that he can make clones of himself out of strands, I believe individual strands of his own hair. And if I remember correctly, each of those clones is supposed to be equal to him, like they're exact copies, as powerful as he is. And so in that sense, each one of his strands of hair is immensely powerful. So there's that.
That makes sense. Also, you know which Saiyan died pretty fast? The bald one.
Pretty famously. And I have a rant about Nappa, the bald Saiyan, because Nappa was out of the show long before the Super Saiyan trope ever became a thing. And I don't know if this has been done. It certainly has been done in fan art. But I've always wanted to see Super Saiyan 3 Nappa, where instead of growing hair, he just grows this huge mustache.
Yeah.
That'd
be super cool.
I like the idea that it's just becomes like a long, sort of like a Hulk Hogan, except just long down to his chest kind of thing.
I never made that connection, but yes, that's what it would be.
We need that Elseworld.
We need that Elseworld.
I'm sure somebody has written that.
Somebody make it. I want it. I want it so much.
So obviously Goku was originally inspired by the Monkey King, and because of that, he was originally supposed to be the Monkey King, I think. And Saiyans before the Super Saiyan trope existed were kind of like werewolf giant monkey people. So under the full moon, they would transform into giant apes. And so I feel like every time Saiyans get more hair, it is making them more ape-like.
They also get tails sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
They have tails, even in their human form.
And I think it's really interesting to note that, you know, as you go through the different Super Saiyan levels, you have the hair gets progressively longer. Like very famously, Super Saiyan 3, you know, the hair is like all the way down to his butt. But so like you look at Super Saiyan 4 and the hair is a little bit more under control, but then you start getting like you said, you got like some body hair, like you got a monkey motif going on here. And so I think that the hair is no longer super long. It just sort of moves to a new place. Arms, chest, I guess.
hair's still tied to power. It's
Yeah.
just, it's just they're becoming more hirsute.
Yeah. They've migrated.
Yeah.
I do not know this word.
Hirsute.
It means like very body hair-esque.
Covered in
Okay.
hair. It's hairy.
Oh.
It means hairy.
Interesting. Okay. No, I think
I could have
that's a
said
new-
hairy, but I said
Yeah.
hirsute.
I like learning new words. I
Yeah.
just didn't. Yeah, I just learned a new word.
Everyone go out and learn a new word every day.
Yeah, word of the day.
It might also be pronounced hirsute. Maybe both are applicable. I don't know.
But it's not pronounced hairy suit.
It's not. Yeah,
Yeah, but it is
hirsute.
synonymous with hairy suit almost.
It is. I
Yeah.
love that it's a cognate. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in addition to them being more ape-like, Akira Toriyama noted that. So, I think I've mentioned this on the show before, and I just think it's funny. When Super Saiyans were first introduced, because Goku was the legendary Super Saiyan in the original Dragon Ball, that's what it was building to. But then Super Saiyans became a thing. Their hair all turns yellow, and in the original manga, that just meant their hair turned white because the manga was black and white. And the reason for that change was that it cost more ink to color Goku's hair in black all the time. So it was saving on ink. But he went on to say that the color was originally supposed to be an in-universe representation of a surge of ki energy. And so the lighter colored hair was never really supposed to be a literal change in color of their hair. It was supposed to be kind of be like a glow or a lighting effect.
Oh,
And when they adapted it into an anime, it was hard to just constantly have it lit that way. So they translated it by saying his hair changed color.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't think I ever knew that.
Yeah, I learned that today.
I think the Super Saiyan's hair does kind of look like it's glowing, though.
Yeah, it's what's supposed to be they're surrounded in their ki energy.
Yeah. And I think it's also really neat because now we have Dragon Ball Super. And, Dragon Ball Super has sort of introduced the idea of Super Saiyan God, or I think sometimes it's just referred to as Super Saiyan Blue. And they just sort of go back to the normal hair that regular old Super Saiyan has. But I still think that it's more powerful because when you look at a regular Super Saiyan's hair, you see that sort of gold aura on top, whereas Super Saiyan God has the blue, which represents sort of a cleaner burning ki, which of course is going to give off less pollutants as well. And so I think that that's really just a representation of how much more powerful Super Saiyan God or Super Saiyan Blue might actually be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hair is tied to power. I'm really pushing for the answer of yes, hair is tied to power as someone with long hair.
Yeah.
Well,
and you know who else? Has a lot of power and also long hair is Samson.
I was going to go there. I'm so
there
glad
you
you
go.
went there.
Yeah, Samson from the book of Judges in
Whoa.
the Bible.
In the Bible.
In fact, it's so tied to power that when he gets his hair cut, he loses his super strength.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are misunderstandings of that story where they think that having long hair is somehow directly causes him to have super strength. And the idea being that Samson came from the Nazarite people who, among all of their people, they had a covenant with God and a vow that no razor should touch their head. This was a communion they made specifically between themselves and God. And so as long as he didn't break his covenant, he had the strength of God. But it's interesting that is paralleled throughout other cultures in things like Scandinavian folklore. Famously, Thor is always depicted as having long flowing hair. A lot of like Viking aesthetics, they always have long flowing hair. Long hair is a representation of vitality. In many cultures, it is an indication of a warrior. So a powerful warrior has long flowing hair, and this is because we think if you have long hair, it means you are healthy, it means you are youthful. We associate balding with aging, which is your body physically getting weaker. So I would say whether or not hair makes you powerful, it is tied to power, at least culturally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And as somebody who is currently in the process of losing his hair, I definitely feel a lot weaker than I did when I was 20. So,
Oh, also glam rock is another example.
oh yeah,
Powerful hair.
yeah.
It's
Because
powerful hair.
I think that, well, no, you know what? I don't know if that holds. Well, yes, it does. Because you know what? David Bowie had the long hair and sold a lot of albums, but it wasn't. But Ziggy Stardust was not his best-selling album. He actually had shorter hair when he made his best-selling album. So, but that wasn't a glam rock album, the best-selling one. So,
Well, I think we're ignoring hair metal.
Yeah,
but
hair
that's
metal.
true.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
of that stuff. And Jim, I just a word of encouragement for you is like I don't want you to lose hope. I don't want you to like lose heart just because you're just losing hair in spots on your body. But as we've learned from the Saiyans, it's the amount of hair. It's not just the hair on your head. It's all of the hair that gives you power.
It's all of the hair.
Yeah.
You are a hairy gentleman.
Yeah. And the important thing to also keep in mind is that if I can go Super Saiyan, a lot of that hair is going to come right back.
That's
So,
true.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's going to get way long too.
Embrace your Hirsute.
Yeah.
Gonna make it to SS3.
Yeah.
Super Saiyan 3 Jim.
Yeah, I want that more than Nappa.
I do too now.
I mean, now I do 3 because I assume that means I can fly and stuff. Like,
Super Saiyan 3 Jim. That's new design, new art project for you.
yeah.
I don't think we can license that.
Yeah, well, you don't have to license. You just should do it.
Yeah.
I'll work on it.
It can be released for free to the public.
So where do we land? Definitively yes is the answer.
Yeah, hard yes.
I'm for it. All
Yeah.
right. All right, listeners, is losing your hair directly tied to losing your memory? If you have any thoughts on that or anything else, you can email feedback@vaguelyscientific.com, or you can comment on our blog, or you can like us on Facebook, or you can follow us on Blue Sky @vaguelyscientific. Hey, Jim, where do we get all these wacky questions?
We get them from you, the listeners, and if you have a question that needs to be answered in a vaguely scientific manner, please email us at questions@vaguelyscientific.com. If you want to get our episodes the minute that they're released, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and all the other great places that cool podcasts like to hang out. And subscribing and leaving feedback really helps us out, and so does telling your friends.
And tell your friends, if they erase all of our podcasts from their memory, they get to listen to it again for the first time.
Yeah! And that'll really help our numbers out too, so.
Yeah.
Our vaguely musical intro is composed by Anthony Pizzelli, and don't forget to check out our merch store over at vaguelyscientific.threadless.com. Don't forget to check it out.
Whoa.
Is that anything? That's got to be something.
That was a good, I don't know, it was a tie-in. I liked it.
Good.
I liked it. Thanks you to our long hair expert, David, for being our guest this week.
Yeah.
Yay. For Vaguely Scientific, I am Derek.
I'm Jim.
I am David.
And as a public service announcement, feel free to ignore the flashing red warning lights. They'll only upset you.
Toodaloo, everyone.
I feel like that went well. And then also the as an added bonus, I just won the Monopoly game I was playing while I was talking.
Oh, very good. Did you conquer the orange?
Oh yeah, I went for orange first, and then I used that as an engine to get everything else.
You gotta go
Wise.
for orange first.
Yes.